Why people quit bodybuilding. Welcome back to the channel, guys. For those of you that are new here, my name's Tim and I'm a NPC men's physique competitor. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about my top reasons why I feel like most people fail and quit bodybuilding. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Most people don't realize how intense this sport can be, especially as you get closer to a show. Once you get to that, 4 weeks out mark, things, and be honest with you, sometimes they are not fun. The only thing that keeps you going is that show day, that carrot on the stick, so to speak. Um, your output's really high. Typically, your food is typically pretty much on the low side, kind of in the basement level of those calories. Especially for anything like me that, I have to suffer to get lean. The bulk of the days, you do not feel good. You do not feel like going in and working out. You don't feel like training. You just feel like doing the bare minimum, as far as the things you have to do day to day, just because of how intense it is. It's not fun getting to stage condition. It's all worth it in the end, absolutely. But leading up to that, it is very intense. You just don't have energy. You don't have the energy to do the things that you want to do outside of the things that you have to do. In my opinion, that is one major reason why people end up failing this sport. They just can't handle the intensity that you have to have going into a show. So, reason number two is too much of a time commitment. Contest prep can be very, very time consuming. So, you got to think about it. Everything amplifies during prep. Your cardio, you're going to be, typically most people are going to be spending way more time doing cardio than in off season. In an off season, you might be doing, 15 or 20 minutes, 4 or 5 days a week. On a contest prep, it is not abnormal to see guys and girls doing double 60s, an hour in the AM, an hour post training. And on top of that, your training sessions. You still have to keep that training intensity high. So you're going to be in the gym for at least the normal amount of time, hour and a half. And then on top of that, you have to make sure all your nutritional things are on point too. So you have to make sure you're spending time meal prepping. You're having to spend your time making your meals. You also need to spend time planning, planning for days ahead. If you have a trip coming up, you have to plan for that sort of thing where maybe you were a little bit lax in the off season. But yeah, contest prep is significantly more time consuming than a contest or than a off season, excuse me. Um, and not even just from an actual physical time standpoint, but time with your loved ones, time with your girlfriend, time with your boyfriend. That becomes rather limited as well. On two fronts. One, because you might still be training, you might be doing the cardio, and two, you might just not have the mental bandwidth to be as present in your relationship as you once were, as you are in the off season, so to speak. So you have to think about it from those fronts as well. But reason number three, you're not seeing results fast enough. So typically when most people start a prep, especially the first couple of preps, they're more heavier than they think they actually are. Meaning they have more fat on them than they think they are. So maybe they're not getting lean enough fast enough, and that makes them want to pull out a prep. Or maybe they can't get through I call it like a skinny fat phase. There's a phase in prep where you're coming down, your body weight's coming down, you're losing fat, but you're not lean enough to be shredded yet, where you can see all the detail, but you've lost a lot of the glycogen and you don't look as full and you don't look as big anymore. So it's kind of like look almost skinny fat. It's really wild. And people think, you can just get shredded overnight. And guys, that is not the case. Getting shredded takes time. That there's a reason why people are doing 16, 20-week preps instead of these little 6 or 8 week almost mini cuts at that point. They're just not seeing the results they want fast enough. I think that is another major reason why people are actually failing out of prep is they don't want to commit to that 16, 20, 24-week prep. They're just too focused on the instant gratification of like a mini cut and not actually willing to put in the time, the effort, the consistency to get down to actual stage condition again, which takes a lot of time. So point number four, they come to terms that there are major health risks associated with bodybuilding. It's no secret. Steroids, PEDs, performance enhancing drugs are a major part of bodybuilding. They always have and they always will be. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some genetic outliers out there that can make it to the top of the sport without the use of performance enhancing drugs, but they are definitely in that 1 percentile. And I would say they're definitely not most people. So especially like myself, I'm not blessed with the best genetics. I have to compensate for that somewhere. So performance enhancing drugs is a reality for me. Um, and I am very, very much aware of the potential health risk. I do as much as I can as far as a prevention standpoint to stay on top of my blood work, stay on top of my health checks. But at the end of the day, it is a reality, and that is something that I have to be okay with. You have to be okay with, and that is not something anybody else can decide for you. That's going to be a completely personal decision. So keep that in mind. As you're pursuing the sport, there are major health risks associated with it. That can happen long term. You maybe you do one cycle and you properly PCT off, and everything comes back to normal, you're good to go, you decide you never want to compete again, the risks aren't worth it to you. Or maybe you're one of the unlucky that you have major, I don't say major health problems at this level, but maybe your testosterone level doesn't bounce back to where it was naturally, and you have to be on testosterone for the rest of your life just because you wanted to dabble in bodybuilding and you were ill informed. So keep that in mind. I feel like a lot of people come to that realization at some point in their career and decide, okay, maybe it's time to stop. Maybe it's not something I want to pursue anymore. So, into our next one, how expensive this sport can be. Guys, this is probably one of the most expensive hobbies you can do. Everything in this sport is 100, 200 bucks. I don't say everything, but everything when it comes to competing is 100 bucks plus, and you need a lot of it. So you got to think you're going to need show registration, 100 bucks, 100 bucks per class, roughly, depending on the promoter. You're going to need an NPC card. That's 145 bucks, I believe it was this year. Hotel rooms, if you're staying out of town, travel expenses, tanning, around 150 bucks. All your pump up stuff, all your coaching fees, all your food, all your gear if you're enhanced. All that stuff adds up, guys, and it becomes really, really expensive. And a lot of you, especially if you're younger, you just don't have the financial means to support the hobby long term. And that's okay too. You can recreationally bodybuild and not necessarily get on stage until you were, in a better financial position. That's totally cool. But just realize once you get bit by the bug of a bodybuilding stage, it is really, really hard to put it on the back burner. At least it was for me. So to be honest with you, there's not much that I would not do to get on stage. I don't really care what it costs at this point. I'm obsessed with this shit. I'm gonna pay for it, whatever it costs. Let's run it. Let's get on stage because I am absolutely hooked. By far the best hobby that I've ever gotten into, and it just becomes a way of life. And those of you that are passionate about certain things, you can understand what I'm talking about when you say there's nothing you wouldn't do for the sport. That's the position I'm in. And once you get on stage, I feel like most people, if you're super into the gym, super into health and fitness, you'll be that way as well. Now, obviously, not all of you, and that's okay too. But yeah, that is another major reason why I feel like people end up failing out of the sport, deciding to quit pursuing it. It's just from a financial perspective, it becomes very difficult. Especially once you're close to show, you know what are you going to do? You worked for 16 weeks out of a 20-week prep, and it becomes really, really, really difficult to go, okay, well, I'm going to pull out now because I can't afford the show registration. Those kind of things. So make sure you're doing your research on, the prices of everything if it's an issue to you. That way you can go into a prep with all the information and all that good stuff. That way you're not getting to that 4 or 6 weeks out when it's time to start booking things and just be shell shocked of how expensive stuff is. So definitely keep that in mind. And let's get into our next point here: poor coaching or a bad prep. So, unfortunately, guys, in this sport, there are a lot of terrible coaches that will absolutely crush your metabolism, crush your spirit, and just make you really not want to pursue the sport anymore. There's people out there, guys, that from like 16, 20 weeks out have people doing an hour, 2 hours of cardio on 1,200 calories, starting, like I said, no joke, 14, 16, maybe even 20 weeks out. Now, those people, sure, they get shredded, just because they're on starvation mode calories, doing a crazy amount of output. But there's a flip side to that. It makes it where it makes for a miserable prep. It makes it where people don't want to actually pursue the sport anymore because, especially if this is the first time experience for these people, it makes them think that that's the only way that you can actually get lean, which is far from the truth. So I feel like bad preps, that kind of thing. I mean, if I had a prep like that where I was doing 2 hours of cardio, eating 12, 1,500 calories that far out, and for a long period of time, hell, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that I would want to pursue bodybuilding anymore. Um, so yeah, unfortunately, guys, there are coaches that are putting people through absolute shit shows of preps just because they have no idea what they're actually doing as far as getting somebody shredded. So make sure you're doing your research on coaches because a good coach is vital to your success. Makes the prep so much smoother, makes the rebound so much smoother. Like my last prep, for example, I didn't binge. Like, sure, calories got low for me at the end of prep. I got down to around, on average, got a high and a low day. On average, around 1,450 calories. But that was the last probably like 3 weeks. And I was doing like 65 minutes of cardio 5 days a week, which is not obscene, in comparison. But with having a properly structured prep, a realistic prep, I didn't have like I had cravings post show, absolutely, but I never once had like super crazy like go off the handles binging, any kind of crazy episodes like that. So that puts us to at the time of this video, it is September 24th, and I can competed back in June 8th of 2024. So this year, I don't know how many weeks that is, but as of this morning, I was 11 pounds heavier than my stage weight. So keep that in mind, guys. A good prep, a good coach, or just a coach in general can make or break your prep. So definitely keep that in mind when you're researching your coaches. Reach out to other clients, current, current, past clients of this particular coach, and get their feedback. And if you hear any of that um, crazy, outlandish stuff going on, early in the prep, or you hear a bunch of like cookie cutter plans are being given out, that kind of thing, run far away and look into someone else. I promise you will thank me later. You might have to pay a little bit more for it out of pocket monthly, but I promise you it's worth it. So let's go ahead and get into our next one. Poor genetics. People come into the realization that their genetics are not suited for the sport. Um, Maybe there are those people that have 40-inch shoulders and a 45-inch waist, essentially zero V taper. To be honest, guys, you're not going to make it very far in bodybuilding. Um, I'm not saying you're not going to make it very far. You might be able to beat your personal best, which is ultimately the most important, show to show. But you're not going to, go up to that IFBB pro level, or you're not going to make it to the Olympia stage if your genetics are just that bad, which is totally fine. Definitely continue working out. Definitely continue being healthy, but just coming to the realization that a bodybuilding stage might not be the best option for you is a hard pill to swallow. But at the end of the day, you have to be true to yourself and understand that. And I feel like that's another reason why people fail out and decide to end up leaving the sport. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap this video up. And go ahead and drop a like and a comment. And don't forget to subscribe as well. But drop some comments down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys want to see moving forward. And drop some comments in there too and let me know how I can improve my videos and the kind of content that you guys are wanting to see. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Peace.